Okay.
I'm ready whenever you guys are ready because I'm the best.
Well, according to this list, Mark's the genius. Casey, this is the first guy to be on the list. And
Except
Joey's the
for
best writer.
except for WIP editing.
And Mark is in Comic Sans. All right, let's get started, guys. Toonwerks podcast.
Oh my god!
Hey, let me blow the dust off this.
Blow the dust off it. Yep, it's been a while.
All
There we
right,
go.
get rid
Get
of
out
those
of here,
cobwebs.
tumbleweed.
Yeah, there's an entire tumbleweed in here. Wow.
It just formed.
Yeah.
It didn't even tumble in. It just grew out of the ground of the podcast.
Well, that's what tumbleweeds do. They grow and then they die and then they spread their seeds.
But there's no wind inside the podcast, so it couldn't tumble.
But it's not
It's full
rebel.
of hot air, though. I am Joseph Blanchett.
And I am Casey McDonald.
And I'm Mark McGee.
Mark McGee.
I almost said Mobile.
Oh, did you get married,
Yeah.
Mark? You have a new name?
No, I just lied about my last name to make myself cooler. I'm sorry. I realized the error of my ways and I'll never do it again.
And as you probably know, we're the Toonwerks guys. We made Wonders of the Universe.
If you remember that.
And
Past tense.
if we made at one point, every time we release a big episode, we like to do a podcast about it and talk about it. And this will be the first one that we put on our YouTube channel as well. So
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's been quite a while since our last major episode. Joseph actually animated the last short.
Yeah, I got mine as short a few months ago. But do you guys really want to talk about inside baseball? Why it's been so long since the episode, or just want to pretend like oh, we're still doing it?
Well, I think some people find it interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we won't go into great big details, but there was a lot of evolving that went on through the course of this episode. It's funny because when episode 4 was finished, we talked about how we wanted to change up the pipeline to make future episodes work better and be produced faster. It worked really well, let me tell you.
Okay, so before you get into it, there were basically three things why this episode took so long. One is that we were trying to do either a short or the Minecraft sequel or some other other movies that we were planning on doing that never quite took to fruition.
Yeah, like we actually planned to do like a few other things in between that never happened. Like we had a cartoon Casey's working on called Captain Atomic.
Yes.
That we thought was going to be the next project, but never like fully formed. We had a Minecraft sequel that didn't quite find its legs.
Yeah, we had a couple of shorts we were working on, and some of these got written as well.
Yeah, and we had this other concept that never even got off the ground. So like we decided, like, you know what, we need to, Wonder should be it, and we actually had a few ideas for what Wonders 5 would be.
Yes, this is the other reason why it took so long. Is we went through like 15 different scripts.
Yeah, we had maybe 2 or 3 different plot ideas, and we ended up settling on the current one. And I guess go ahead.
Okay, so first let's talk about why we decided to.
It's a little hard to hear, Casey. Can you?
I'm in the kitchen. Give me a sec. Okay, no.
Make us a sandwich.
So yeah, we actually had a few different ideas on what episode 5 should be, but I mean, first and foremost, when we finished episode 4, we looked at a lot of comments and we saw, that kind of the majority vote was that people didn't really like Nova as a character much, and we were concerned about that. So we're like, we need to write an episode about Nova, and I think that's what really got us hung up so much, is because we were trying to write her as a character, and we weren't used to writing women for one, so that was crazy. We didn't really understand who her character was beyond just being kind of being there for Quentin, which again we were bad at writing female characters.
And like one of our biggest regrets in making the series happened in the first episode when we just made Nova basically the character from Futurama where Fry sees Leela. Yeah. He's instantly in love, but that show developed it, and like we didn't really go anywhere with it.
Yeah. And, we wanted to, and on top of that, we had written a couple episodes, and we got better at writing character numbers. So we looked at Nova, and we were like, she doesn't have much of a character at all, and we wanted to fix that. And on top of that, we had I think all three of us had looked at the character different ways that we wanted to.
Yeah, that's true.
I had originally seen her as a slacker. Casey, I think you saw her as kind of like inspired by your own frustrations at work, and then Joseph probably took all the ideas from Laura, who came up with the character.
Joseph just goes, "Who's Nova?"
Well, I probably just tried to take what you guys were saying and just kind of think about it, but every time we talked about it, it was different, you know?
Yeah.
Well, because Mark, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, Mark was very strongly that she was a slacker, that she just didn't want to do her job. And with me, it was more that, like, you know, it's like, okay, when you work a very mundane job, you get really bored with it, and you just want really nothing to do with it. And it's not that she's a slacker. And in fact, I always saw her as being very good at her job. Like, she was like the best desk operator that ship had, but she was just so apathetic about it that it's almost unbearable. And that's kind of the way I saw it, you know. So we went back and forth a lot on that.
And we kind of settled on a sort of mix of the two, as a way that she is just completely, her soul has been sucked dry by her job, and she doesn't really care. And I see her closer a little bit to Randall from the Clerks movies.
Yeah. So when she's on her job, she just bears it, you know, just goes through the day. But then when she's on break, it's like, don't bother me, I'm on break.
Yeah.
This is me time. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the first scenes we had from this the first episode was the Habanera scene, and that, I think, really just showed why Nova was like what she was.
Yeah,
and it was really one of the first things I think we all agreed on.
The interesting thing about episode 5 is getting to that point, though,
where
we knew what she was, took a lot of work. We actually, like we said, we wrote a few different scripts, and I don't remember what the first of these was.
Well, if you want to talk about the actual story, we can, but going back to Nova.
Okay, go ahead.
Like we said, she was just there because for Quentin to fall in love instantly.
Yeah.
And you know, that was just a big drawback to the character.
Yeah.
Because it's just really an awful way to write a female character.
It's not interesting. It's a bit sexist, and but luckily we saw that flaw, and we worked with it to fix it.
And, and that montage scene was really, I think, kind of helped see what Nova was, even though she only says, like, "How can I help you?" You just see what she puts up with every single day, every single hour, just constant, like, these weird aliens with their weird alien problems. And
cherry allergies.
When Quentin comes around at the end of every workday, she's like, "I don't want to deal with another weird person." And Quentin was like never. I don't know. It was like we only had a couple of episodes where they interact, but he's kind of pushy, but he's never like assertive. Is that the right word? About like, hey, she's like me. She's like, it's like, hey, we should hang out because I gave you presents.
He's very socially awkward, which I think fits Quentin very well because he's kind of a dork.
Yeah,
I mean, he's such a dork.
I mean, on the plus side, that kind of helped with Quentin's character, having all that stuff.
I do think that we've moved away from that whole idea of them just trying to chase after a girl, essentially. And that I kind of see it, and we don't know how we're going to deal with this moving forward, but I see them as basically being friends, or at least on the same level. And they are
I think they're going to be friends that try to date, but
and it might get to that, but I don't see Quentin as being this pursuant person anymore. Is that we're going to get into more being natural acquaintances.
Yeah.
Which
I wish we caught that earlier, but it's fine. You know,
we learned. It was a learning process. We weren't writers, and
to be honest, we learned it pretty quickly. I mean, a lot of people make this mistake and make it for like an entire season and go, oh, whoops, you know. but yeah. So like I said before, we did write a lot of episodes, and our mindset in the beginning was that we wanted to change her character. I remember this because I argued about it one night. we were
One
like,
night.
we need to develop her character, and we kept writing these plots that had some kind of revelation at the end where she opened up more and was a better person. And then eventually we settled for what happened with episode 5, where it's like, you know what, this isn't her character. Her character is that she just doesn't give a crap.
Yeah,
So
it's true. It's like we had a few versions where she changed, but she didn't really have to change. We just had to understand her a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. It was really, instead of having the big character arc where she changes, it was really about us sympathizing with her.
Yeah, because we had a couple versions where it's like, oh, Quentin, I've been hard on you. Maybe we'll go on that date.
Yeah,
But,
and that's really no better than just
exactly. Well, and the other problem with that too is it's like we didn't understand. Like, it's not that people didn't like Nova, right? It's that they didn't understand why Quentin wanted to date her so much. They just didn't see a connection there, and it's like I think that we've kind of recognized that now, and like we said, they're more friends at this point. Yeah. But yeah, we actually had some really great ideas for episodes in the past. If you guys want to talk about
this xenomorph idea, was an idea we had pretty early on. It didn't have, like, the original concept didn't have really anything to do with Nova. How people were going missing around the ship, and there was this one mysterious passenger, like this VIP passenger, where people would go into his room and never come out. And Quentin makes his way in there, and he finds like the whole cocoon thing, like just in his room, Yeah. And it turns out it's like these people had consent forms, like they signed the form to be a host to my children, and it was just an idea. We never really
we just had the funny idea that they couldn't stop him because everyone, like it was all notarized, and he was allowed to do whatever he wanted.
Like if I want to make a nest in my room, like I have every right to him.
Yeah.
I don't think that version ever made it to script or anything. It was just an idea.
Yeah, there were basically two versions, two ideas that we had for the initial script. One was sort of the alien spoof with the VIP customer that nobody can touch him because he's a VIP and he's not. He's doing this to humans, and humans are expendable, as we saw in episode 2. The other idea was sort of a Aliens
or direct
sequel
alien.
spoof, more direct.
Yeah,
more direct of the James Cameron Aliens movie sequel, where it's
the ship
had been taken over. Nova.
Yes, let's talk about that. We actually have an entire script of this written about Nova being the only human survivor on the Wonder.
Yeah,
everyone else got taken over, and there was this squad of Space Marines that board the ship, find out what happened, and they have a showdown with. I think we had planned like this more like a Queen alien type, like this big monster type alien.
Yeah.
And I actually really kind of like parts of that because it had a bunch of fun new characters in the Marines.
There were a
lot of like chess pieces or something like that.
Yeah, we had this whole idea of it being like Operation Checkmate, and we were just going to codename them after chess pieces or games or something.
Yeah,
and then we had some really good jokes too. Like at one point, the alien was going to pop out and they were going to abort the mission. They were like, "Okay, abort mission, checkmate. Start mission, flip table and run." And that was like their escape mission. And I always liked that joke.
This script, this was like the final version of it. It was like either we was close to like
we were
the
about
final
ready
draft.
to get this thing voiced.
Yeah.
The reason we stopped is because
we didn't like Nova. Nova's
it didn't do anything for Nova. It was more about these crazy Space Marines. And it's one of those things that, like, it's a strong enough script that we could probably revisit it in the future if we want to.
Yeah.
We can go over like some of the things that happened if you guys want.
We had Rook, like the big tough Space Marine guy who was a playoff like bishop.
That's right.
We had kind of the tough lady Marine, which I don't think we ever named, but I think we're going to call her Queen or something.
Yeah, just tough chick in here.
We had the rookie, which we called Checkers.
And Nova was with them because she was off the ship when it was taken over, so she was navigation.
Yeah, the idea is that she had quit her job, and then
they
brought her. Yeah, she'd quit her job because she was so sick of it, and then they brought her back to the ship because she still knew how the computers worked. So she would be like their navigator, basically, as they retook the Wonders because it was too expensive to just let it drift in space forever. Was the idea.
And it was like the whole ship was taken over. And we had the Rodney scene in there, or at least the equivalent, we had this thing where Lindsay, at least it was in at least one version, where Lindsay had a little pet alien, like xenomorph baby. But it like didn't have teeth or something, so it was harmless. And she would give exposition about how they worked. But we realized like we don't need to go into all this detail. Stuff. But there was one scene which I really liked. Maybe it doesn't work in the way we did Nova in the end, but they come to the ship's like security room basically, like to find out how the alien came on board, and they find out he was smuggled aboard with some illegal fruit. Yeah. Like that line that Chuck Darwin has about, "Did you bring any vegetables?" It was that scene, but like this big alien egg came in with it, and like that's how it got on board and all that. But Nova sees security footage of her and Quentin talking, and she realizes how much he bothered her every single day. But then kind of realize it's like, wow, it's like the only she starts to realize, well, I actually started to look forward to when he was going to be here because it was like the bright point of my day, and that was kind of like
it was sort of like the Wall-E Eve thing when Eve is seeing the footage.
She's like watching all the security footage on like fast forward.
You might have.
Oh jeez.
Well, it's like she's watching the whole thing on like fast forward, and like Quentin just shows up every single day. Yeah. And after a while, that's like the most interesting part of the day because everything else is just so mundane.
Yeah. I don't think she falls in love with him or anything, but she realized that she should probably just like stop being a jerk to him.
Yeah,
and that was really all of her growth in that episode, and like the rest of it was more alien spoofs where the Marines start to get killed off one by one.
Oh wait, it just reminded me of one of the very earliest versions of this script was actually from something that I wrote like an exposition scene that nobody read for like a year until I got super sad and they're like, "You never read that. It was only 3 pages long." And then finally guilt tripped everybody into reading it. And then we ended up using part of it for the script that we have now.
There was one scene I really liked where Nova and one of the Marines were trapped somewhere, and the Stufu comes down like he kind of does now, but he turns on his motion sensor. And he just starts going beep, beep, beep.
Oh, this is.
What's that?
Oh, that's actually what the other two. I'm reading through it, and it's actually that the other two Marines get shacked up with the STFU because they get lost,
right.
And they find it shut down, and they like wake it up, and then like it's like like its Windows boot up or whatever the STFU does. And it just like freaks them out, and they shoot it and kill it, and they're just like, oh, I think it's dead. And then like another one just comes down, like, and it just goes greetings, like and they just like shoot that one, and then like it cuts away, and then when it cuts back, there's just like 100,000 STFUs, and they finally just run out of ammo, and they find out it's the ship's computer, and then they use it to do the motion sensor thing. But
it's like the thing in Alien. It's pretty iconic where it goes beep 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 beep, but he was just going beep 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 beep.
Yeah.
Never really found a way to put that in the new episode.
Yeah, we only
it does that, and then the monster comes up, and it just goes, what does he say? It's like the monster appears to be right behind you, and then he just grabs one of them and pulls them away.
Goodbye. This moment appears to be terrifying. Should I cut power to the lights?
We had a really great STFU scene in here. It's one of the best, and it's like we need to save that for a future episode. We had we
got parts of it in the final one though.
Yeah, a lot of some of the individual scenes and dialogue was recycled. You appear to be in a classic horror scenario. Do you wish to say cliche lines? That's actually in the script.
Yeah,
and that kept in.
There's the Rook or whatever, the big tough Marine guy is like just constantly going on about like he's got like his wife and kids back home. They haven't seen him in years, and after this mission he's gonna get to go back and be with his family. And then like he's like, they just bought me a new car, look at they took a picture of it. He's like showing like pictures out of his wallet of his kids and his car, and he's like, look at this life insurance policy they got out on me. It's like, it's just great. If I died today, they'd be set for life. Here's a picture of it. He's got like a picture in his wallet of his life insurance. And then like obviously he's like the first one to die. He just gets picked off like right away.
Yeah, and like the rest of the episode wasn't super complicated. It's like they meet the alien in the, I think it was the lobby in this version.
Yeah, they end up in the
And
lobby.
Yeah.
and they actually had like a power loader type fight from aliens in there.
Uh-oh.
Find the bodies of the. Oh
There you are. Okay.
Yeah,
Everybody's back.
I don't think the alien actually talked in this one,
no, it was just a monster.
in this version. And but one thing that did remain is the White Dwarf line getting sued.
Yeah, it was always the idea that they kill this thing and it had every right to do whatever horrible thing it was doing.
It's funny in this version because, like I said, they get to they it's just a horrible monster. Like it's not sentient or whatever, and they kill it and send it into space. And then there's still the scene in the courtroom where the monster's just in bandages and it has like a lawyer.
Like maybe we're gonna have it actually talk then. It's gonna be like all of our characters in a British accent. But yeah, we had this version. We liked a lot of parts of it, but we said, if this episode's about Nova, it's not about Nova anymore. It's about these Marines.
Yeah.
It's not really about anything at that. It's just
It's really cool. I mean, it's like you said, we had the scene where Nova watches herself berating Quentin every day, and then like she feels bad. So the next thing that happens is they find the nest where all the people are glued to the walls, and she pulls Quentin out of there because she's like, I have to save you from here, and they're like, why? And then like they have the Marines at this point are just like, this entire ship has been compromised. We're gonna blow it up. And they got to stop the bomb from going off. There's a lot of neat things that went on in this, and I actually really enjoy it. But like we're saying, we kind of sat back and said, this isn't the script. This isn't the story we need to write right now.
It's not the story we deserve, but it's the story we need.
So we said, okay, let's do something else.
Yeah.
And,
then we went the extreme opposite. We went from this to the cat episode. Did you want to talk about the cat episode?
Yeah, because I still like this premise because it's just kind of a different feel, and it's kind of like those old Looney Tune cartoons where like the baby's going on adventures, but it was with this cat, like Nova's cat character, and it was about just kind of behind the scenes look at Nova's day, like juxtaposed with her cat escaping and going on an adventure. And I like the idea, but it's just really not.
It wasn't exciting enough.
We had trouble kind of figuring out where it was going. Like the cat got outside. It's like, why did the cat go outside, and what she's gonna do out there, and how is that gonna relate to Nova's character?
Yeah, because we're gonna have the cat like get this in this little space bubble and go outside the ship when the supernova is about to go off, and all this crazy stuff that happened.
And this is kind of my fault for just injecting action into it, where it's like, how about they're like, viewing a space nova that's going to explode, and the ship is shielded or whatever. What if the cat like gets outside in a maintenance bubble and they got to rescue the cat or whatever? And it's like, we were playing tug of war a lot with that one because that was the idea. Like, so this is like the extreme opposite of having this big space marines shooting up an alien. Was like Nova's got to like find her cat on the ship or whatever, and it's just like we kind of see it again. It had the problem of like we're trying to make her emotional, which is the same problem with the original. Where it's like, oh, this is the one thing she cares about, and it's gotten away, and Quentin helps her find it, and like. And again, it's like we were really trying to show that her character, like she's not the character you think she is. Everybody, you're supposed to just like her, and obviously that's the wrong approach to take.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing that we wrote this. Like we started to write that and realized it wasn't the right direction to go. I mean, like we kind of this is a little like different than actual like movie and TV show writing where they write a million things just to get the one thing that works, so.
Yeah, they have a whole team of professional writers where we're just three guys who say, no, your idea's stupid, I want to do my idea instead.
So we decided to go back to the xenomorph idea, which I don't think we're actually calling him the xenomorph in the episode, but we just call him.
We don't actually name him. We just say the only time he's ever referred to as an alien, a bad alien, and
his name is Nigel S. Stromo.
That's right.
Like Stromo, get it, guys?
Yeah, I came up with half that.
It was funny when we decided to move with that too. I remember because, like I said, I was fighting about it that night. I was mad, and I was just like arguing, like, this isn't the right. All these things don't work. And like, I remember we were like, well, we got to write a script then. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna write it. And I remember I was talking to Gherkin Man that
You
night,
always do that. You're just like, I'm just gonna write it.
and then you guys like went to bed, and I was like, I'm gonna make an entire pot of coffee, and I'm just gonna sit up all night until we have a rough draft. So I did that, and it was like really bad. It like wasn't very good at all. But I was like, there, we have a rough draft. It was literally only like I think 2.5 pages long, as well was the other thing. And they were like, there was like a curse joke. There was like the SFU was putting a curse filter on people. It was really silly. But we took that and said, okay, so the idea is that we leave Nova's character the same. We just emphasize more who she is and why she feels so we emphasize we sympathize with who she is.
Yeah.
We get so people can understand her more.
It was enough for us. It was that stepping stone we needed to figure out. It was, I believe, that kind of thing is called spitballing, where you're like, what if we do this? And that kind of gets the creative juices going, and everybody figures out. And so you spitball this entire script out there for us.
Yeah. It worked though. I mean, there you go. But yeah, that's
kind of combined the original premise of this VIP, with the one him like taking people and making a nest, and we kind of combined the two.
And it kind of fits better because rather than being it's a horrible alien on the ship, it's like there's a horrible passenger customer on the ship. So it fits better with like the universe and the theme of the show.
One of the things I did a lot as well with this episode, like for the things that I specifically wrote that stuck, and it's interesting because I work at a grocery store. I think I say that every single time we have a podcast, but like I work in this grocery store, and I won't name it because that's a bad thing to do apparently. But
it's a sex store.
Every customer, we deal with a lot, and like I remember thinking like I should draw from inspiration. We actually had a customer one day, like the thing with the floor hands, like that's a joke, right? Like Quentin goes to clean up a spill and this alien's just like, now you have floor hands or whatever. That was our someone dropped a Hershey's bar on the floor. It was still in its wrapper, and the manager goes, I'll get that for you, and he leans down to get it, and she goes, no, what are you doing? And he picks it up, and she's like, oh, I want someone else to help me. You have floor hands now. And he's like, what do I have? Like, you have floor hands. You touched the floor. Your hands are floory, and he just like left it there and walked away. And it's just like, and I was like, this is ridiculous, like these things happen. There was a line we cut where some customer left their underwear in the microwave.
Oh, yeah, something like
that actually happens pretty regularly. At the store I work at, people put their clothes in the microwave to heat it up.
I'm surprised we didn't have any bum jokes.
Yeah,
We're actually with the floor hands. We actually had a thing later that after he gets hit by the hot coffee, that he would fall on his like hands and knees, and then the thing would shout it out again, floor hands. So it'd be a callback to that, but it ended up getting cut just for the flow. But the first one's still in there. So
I think my favorite character in this episode is the mouthy.
Interesting is that the mouth and the alien are voiced by two separate people. Actually, the alien is voiced. What's the name? I always forget his name. It's
I believe it's Anthony Sardina.
Anthony Sardine or Sardina.
I'm not sure what his alias is.
What his alien is?
Alias.
Antfish.
Antfish. That's right.
That's right. Yeah. So he voiced the alien itself. It's funny, we had a lot of people.
Who did the little mini? It's been forever since we've looked at these, so we apologize to the voice actors.
I remember all their names because I talked to them regularly. But no, Zach Holzman did the voice of the mouth, and he also, it's not released yet, and I'm working on it, whatever. But Captain Atomic does the voice of Captain Atomic. He also did a voice of a ghost in Dread Out. So there's that. I've never heard.
That's right, yeah.
And but yeah, so there you are.
You can just name dropping now?
Yeah, well, why not? No, I feel bad because voice actors don't get a lot of props. But yeah, so
all our voice actors are great.
But he does a great job just screaming as the little mouse. So. What other new characters showed up? Oh, we have H.
Johansson.
Yeah. So this was interesting with H. Johansson. He's got a history too. Is that he was originally conceived by.
It was me, Crispo.
It was you and Crispo, and Crispo was originally going to voice this character. He actually appears in some of the early Toonwerks Minecraft things that we do. It's Chris's character, and skin for his Minecraft dude. he had some ideas for he actually storyboarded, made an animatic out of like a young adventurous Ace Johansson that unfortunately never got made, but eventually we decided on I think it was you guys that decided that you wanted to move away from, because he was doing like a British accent and you wanted to move away from a slightly different thing.
Sort of. It was that Ace Johansson. So in case you don't know, if you're listening to this, Ace Johansson is like the CEO of White Dwarf, and he shows up at the beginning, and he's the guy that is like, you built a giant metal hand into space to high five a planet. He's that guy, and yeah,
he's voiced by Ty Konzak, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So originally, yeah, he was a British guy, and I think this is largely because when he was first created, I hadn't seen the show yet, but Chris was drawing a lot of inspiration from Doctor Who. Like, he was saying things like, how about this? Every time Ace Johansson gets really old or killed, he gets a new body, things like that. It's like, now that I've seen Doctor Who, I'm like, like, where did, Chris? Anyway, so, but yeah, so he was British, and he was this very, I want to say pompous.
But he was Australian to begin with, wasn't he?
Originally I was doing the voice. I thought, well, we should make him Australian, maybe, and then Chris Bo did the voice, and we liked
kind
of like Chris Bo's.
Yeah, he was gonna be like what's his Richard Branson, the guy who owns Virgin Airlines and Virgin Galactic and all that stuff, like the self-made billionaire. He's kind of like that adventurous kind of thing, crossed with Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
No, he was going to be friends with Teddy Roosevelt, who was still alive and traveling to stars.
And Cleopatra was another one.
Yes.
Stars. But yeah, anyway, the thing was, so Mac the actor, Devin Mac, he does a lot of our voice casting at Toonwerks, sort of. Like, he helps us find a lot of these people, and he doesn't do a lot of the voice directing. I know he's been talking about doing that for episode 6, but that aside, he brought up that we have a lot of English people in this show, like a lot, and and he said, like, you should mix it up, you should put some different things in there, whatever. And he pitched the idea that
what other accents are there?
So he actually pitched that he should be Southern, like he thought about it or whatever, and showed me a few things. Like, I'll bring it up to Toonwerks. And then, of course, Mark and Joseph just, like, whipped me a few times. Said, no. No, we fought about it a little bit. I want to say fight. It was just more, like, well, Chris Bo wrote.
Because we're so used to Chris Bo in his voice, and we're actually like, we need to break this Chris Bo that he's not doing the voice anymore.
Well, see, I felt bad because I didn't want to do that because he wrote the character, and we promised him that once the character was done, was actually going to be put in the episode, because this was going to be held off for a while. We were going to keep this like a secret for a while, and then we ended up having to use him because it was time to introduce him. So it was weird saying, okay, wait. Oh, by the way, no. Luckily, Chris Bo's a good guy, and
that's the business, though. I mean, maybe if we were a bunch of nobodies, like and we're just like, we weren't putting a lot of thought into it, but.
Well, the other thing, too, is I think we've learned at this point that, because that was kind of the problem with Ace Johansson originally, is that we were planning very far ahead and saying, like, yeah, we'll have this character, he'll be a big secret that we're going to reveal because he's very important in the plot, and we'll have, like, an entire series of short space. I mean, a lot of this was Chris saying this stuff.
Yeah.
And like, that's all fine, but he planned that out, like, years and years and years in advance before we even knew where the series was going to go. We were working on, like, episode 1 still, if I recall. So it was like, as it went along, it was just like, nowadays I look and it's like, okay, we don't plan that far ahead. We have like a loose structure of what's going to happen, but like, you don't want to just make a bunch, and it's like, it's kind of like, a lot of times they'll just want to just go off and do something new, like, let's write a comic, or let's do another series or whatever, and it's not always the best idea.
Yeah.
We suffered from a lot of that in the early days, and Ace Johansson, is kind of one of the casualties of that. Not that he doesn't exist in the show anymore, but that he's very much changed from what we had originally planned, and we felt bad about that. So
that always happens.
Yeah.
Like for example, WotU is going to have a companion. It was going to be this a cooler that he carried around. And we're always like, how do we put the cooler in here? How do we put the cooler in here? And then like we realized, you know what? He doesn't need the cooler anymore. He's fine the way he is.
Yeah, it was gonna be like an R2-D2 thing, except it was actually just a cooler, and he was just kind of crazy. Yeah, it does appear in the little opening animation of the first episode. he's cleaning one of the windows in the yellow hallway, and the cooler's there, and that's it.
So
Well, it's funny.
Ace Johansson was going to appear in one of the drafts. He was going to be like a little Guilty Spark type guy that follows Nova around, and like he was going to give commands to all the Marines. And really, it was just a way to have him in there. It wasn't actually a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, we felt forced to put him in. And that's the thing with writing is you should never force yourself to do something because it probably isn't going to work.
Yeah.
He feels pretty natural in this one. We have the thing at the beginning with him giving.
Yeah, this was actually really good. We have the opening thing, and then we see him later on. So it's a little bit of foreshadowing, and it does fit the conclusion of the storyline.
We're not going to talk about more detail about him yet, are we?
No, we can wait.
He's a very important character that is going to be a big part of the series a little later on. So
yeah.
You have the CEO of White Dwarf Line, richest being in the universe.
He uses all of his money to make giant planet-sized hands to high five. So it's a lot like the rich people of today, really.
Yes,
no, I'm just
Bill Gates high-fived the entire continent of Europe.
They're still not recovered.
What else about this episode?
Yes, we can talk about the episode itself. We talked about the history. Do we want to talk about the episode itself now?
Oh, we kind of went through it.
Yeah, well, okay, so some interesting things with this episode, and we're recording, as is typical Toonwerks fashion, recording this before the episode is released, but, like, I remember there was some things right off the bat where I remember I made a point that, like, I wanted the opening shots, like the opening things going on to be, like, really interesting, because we have a bad habit of doing these cold opens that are, like, very dramatic and very slow.
Yeah.
And I was like, we should try grabbing attention, like, as soon as possible. Like, let's do something really big right off the bat. Like, let's have, like, the ship docked to a place or whatever. And we were talking about having the entrance tunnel where there's, like, big crowds of people and things going on.
No. Hold on.
Okay,
this goes back to what I go back to my original script that you didn't read for 2 years.
Yeah,
the original idea was I had written something. The original idea for the script was that all these new passengers it's docked at a space elevator. All these new passengers get to the top in the space elevator, and it opens up, and they come up, and it's amazing. And then it pans over to a door that Nova comes out of it, and it says human entrance or whatever, and you can see behind her that she took the stairs. The joke being that a space elevator goes from the planet to orbit.
It's a casualty of.
Yes. But nobody read the script for a while, and
we read the script, Mark.
Casey didn't.
We read the script.
Casey didn't.
You're not.
I didn't want to. I have
pity party, Mark.
I really don't like reading things other people wrote. I really don't, and it's because I'm always afraid it's gonna be bad, and I'm going to tell them it's bad. Like that's the reason. If you want the reason, that's why.
Okay, back on track, people.
Okay, but anyways, so we took that. It's like let's have it open here, which is turning out to be a problem because someone has to draw an entire crowd of people. And it's like, yeah, so it's like, it's one of those things that we didn't plan very well. In fact, I'd say a lot of this episode kind of suffered from us not planning very well, where it's like, let's just do this. It's like, okay, how's that going to work? I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Burn that bridge when we cross it.
It's like the Foodmatron scene is kind of similar, where we really had no idea how the Foodmatron was going to work. I just said, like, let's have it be in the Foodmatron because it's an interesting place that we haven't seen yet. There we go. And, like, we drew a bunch of, like, Chris Bow, drew a bunch of industrial-looking, like, concept art for it. We knew that we wanted it to look kind of like the machine from
Metropolis.
The Metropolis. It's just this ancient sci-fi movie
1950s. That's not ancient.
It's older than I am.
Or 1940, excuse me.
It was so old that they aren't able to recover the entire movie.
They've actually found everything except I think a few frames. But it's between World War I and World War II. So it's mid-30s.
Bit of trivia: the reason we chose that movie to mimic in the Fumatron scene is because that movie kind of focuses on upper class taking advantage of lower class in general. But it's like these lower class people are just forced to work, long hours at factories and stuff, to make products and whatever for the people they're working for.
I think myself and Chris Bow were the ones that have seen the movie and could steer in that direction.
I read the wiki.
But no, yeah. You guys talk about it.
I wrote the wiki.
So Did you really? No.
No.
Anyways, I thought it was a good parallel between like that and what's happening on Wonders, where it's like the humans are just breaking their backs for these aliens who just basically at the end want to eat them anyway. um,
I mean, this
So-
alien's one step away from actually eating a person.
yeah. So like which just makes it all the more funny that whenever they get rid of him, all the humans are just like, great, now we
How
can just
did
go
it-
back to work, and they all just.
How did it kind of evolve from the alien like eating or laying eggs in people or whatever to just being obsessed with wanting food service?
Because I think it's more funny.
It's more funny, but how did it like? I don't remember how it
It's-
changed to that.
I don't know if it ever did change. I think it's that when we were it was in one of the drafts that I remember writing, and I remember writing the thing about the scene with Rodney because we had a big sticking point about this too, where the aliens would burst into Rodney, and it's like, is this going to be graphic? Is it going to be bloody? And it's like, oh, there's only one way it's going to be funny, right? Because this joke's been done 100 times. We've even had aliens burst into people and put on top hats and dance around, right? So how do you make fun of that scene? It's got to be like a clown car.
Yes.
There's got to be like a million of them that just come out.
Which I've already done in my Alien versus Predator review.
But I thought, like, you know what? What if there's just a million little baby aliens that are just cute and adorable, and like their lord or whatever, the guy, he's got to feed them all or whatever. So he's taken over the Foodmatron to feed his all of his children or something. That was a concept I think I had in my head.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In a way, that Rodney scene doesn't really fit with the overall theme. Because like the alien doesn't lay eggs in people necessarily, you know. He's just taking over the food run.
No, that's what it says at the end. It was like he could use.
Well, I mean, he does in the cartoon, obviously, and we make reference to it.
Yeah.
But
It's not a major point.
yeah, like
thing.
if Alien didn't exist, you know, we probably didn't have that.
Well, no. At one point, he does give the key lime pie to a little baby alien.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah, that was always my idea is that's what he's
maybe
doing.
wasn't getting my point across, but it's like it's like the episode used to be about the alien taking over the ship, putting people in pods.
Yeah.
But we only see it once. But and I guess all the baby aliens came from Rodney.
Well, I figure he probably abducted like 3 or 4 people, and Rodney was just the last one.
I figured that's why everybody was scared of him in the Foodmatron because he threatened to impregnate them.
Yeah.
Don't make me lay eggs in you. Oh, but yeah, like oh man, should we talk about the night of artgasm I had where I drew all the food?
Oh God.
That was amazing. It
and
was
all the
like
food's way too small for anybody to see anyway.
it's incredible. I think I have an entire FLA just full of all of the food where like I was on Twitter and I was like, you know what, we gotta draw food. I'm just gonna. So I started with like a pumpkin pie and just made it myself.
I will turn off that air conditioning. Keep talking.
So the pumpkin pie looked really good, and I was like, this food actually is making me hungry. It's like, let's draw more. So I went on like Twitter and was just asking people like, what should I draw next? And like, I think I spent 5 minutes on each piece.
I will go off momentarily.
On each piece of food, all the way up to the lobster, which doesn't look much like a lobster, but whatever. Yeah, like it was just nuts. Like I think that was like the most artwork I've drawn for Wonders, like within the span of an hour ever.
Yeah, because
But,
usually it takes you a month.
I'll be quiet. I drew you a trash bin today.
I know. I've been asking for it for a month.
The Foodmatron actually had. Speaking of art, went through
Yeah,
a couple
you did 2
phases.
versions of the Foodmatron, or the wide shot.
Yeah, well, because there was the original that I drew, which was this big, really wacky looking room. There's lots of colors. There's these big windows looking out into space, and just pipes everywhere. Like it's just a crazy factory.
It's like your Minecraft server's warehouse room.
So then, like, it was okay, but I didn't like the perspective. When you're drawing backgrounds, one of the things that you got to keep in mind is you got to keep things simple, and this didn't do that. I spent like individual entire days on different segments of the room. It's like, okay, now I gotta draw this catwalk over here. Now I gotta put these cubby things in over here. And in the end, the ending result was just so convoluted and crazy that I didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, it looked really good.
Oh yeah, I guess it looks good, but I didn't like. It didn't really. It was too
It
much.
wasn't scary and intimidating, which is kind of like what we wanted the theme of those scenes to be.
Yeah, well, so then I went and drew the current food matron, because the other thing too is I was thinking like it's got to have lots of food tanks. There's got to be food tanks everywhere.
Yeah.
So like I went and made the current one where they're all along the floor, like they're just inside the floor compartment or whatever. And there's actually I think 800 something little round circles that take up food tanks. I counted them. They're skewed, so you can't really count.
Did you count them, or did you use multiplication to figure it out?
Multiplication is a form of counting. But yeah. So there you go. There's 800 something. I forgot the exact number, but it's nearly 1,000 of those.
If anybody wants to check that and confirm it, be our guest.
It still is not enough. I felt like I wanted to have the entire horizon filled with those things, and ultimately it ended up just being like kind of a squarish space. But whatever.
It came out looking really good.
Yeah, I made lots of fog and lights and things, and it's really spooky looking.
But then he had to do close-ups of the thing, and it's like, oh, this is skewed a little too much, and I had to adjust some things. But it ended up working out really well.
We had to restart the cartoon.
Yeah. I also realized why you never see railings and sci-fi stuff anymore. It's because they get in the way.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
We put railings on everything, but they're always really short.
That's why Star Wars didn't have any railings.
Yeah. Well, you make them really short. This is always a problem with your computers and stuff, and railings is that they come up to their shins. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Well, I mean,
I think Casey always has this like huge room, in his mind, but then in reality, it's like just thriller size.
Yeah, that's kind of the case, actually. When I draw a catwalk, I usually draw it for like 6 people to be standing side by side on. I always imagine things way bigger than they are. And then Mark makes the people bigger, and it makes the room look smaller. And it's like, what's with this railing here? Look how small it is.
Mainly it's because I'm like, well, I can't do the entire thing in a wide shot. I need to be creative.
Yeah, whatever.
But it ends up working for the most part anyway. So it's really hard trying to... doing this in a non-professional manner where things aren't planned out ahead of time, where we have backgrounds that are detailed and figured out before we even draw them and stuff like that. And ultimately we're combining 3 different separate pieces of art, which is my animation, your backgrounds, and Casey, and your characters, Joseph. And I have to make sure that they don't clash color-wise or spatial-wise or motion-wise.
That's why I like to draw bright characters, is because they fit in with the more pale backgrounds that Wonders has. So here we have the climax and the Fumatron. You say climax, Nova splashes coffee on it, which is
that's kind
really
of the whole thing.
All it needs, and it makes it better for it.
Yeah, and he slips some coffee, which is a callback to the very beginning.
And it's great too because like. I mean, if you think about it, we originally wrote Nova getting in a cargo carrier and fighting him, like in the movie Aliens.
The only reason because it was in Aliens, that's it.
Yeah. And it's like, Nova wouldn't do that. She would take the laziest, most straightforward solution. She would just splash coffee in his face and call it a day and be like, you've made me lose my coffee. It's just like...
I think what happened was like episode 4 was a very 2001 inspired.
It was a love letter,
almost to the point of being a parody of it.
Yeah.
Like a direct parody. And like the first one was a parody of Aliens, and I think we wanted to move away from, just being a parody and just kind of being inspired by it and paying homage to it. But so we changed up some of that stuff.
Some of the voice actors actually brought up that they felt it was a bad move to do a parody of 2004 one, sorry.
One.
And then just directly do a parody of Aliens immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, but yeah, it's like, I think that isn't something else we talked about where it's like we had to learn what the difference was between parody and like homage or love letter with this episode. I think that's something we talked about one night.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we're just like, well, we have to put this in there because that was in Aliens or whatever. Maybe this episode.
Well, what happened is like Mark is a big fan of 2001 style, and like I'm a big Aliens fan, so it's like, hey, let's do something Aliens. So.
Yeah.
Chris was a big fan of Dune, so we had the little Dune
Yes, now that that's all out of the way, we just have to do our
Now we got to get to what I want.
Doctor Who character.
Doctor Who, and then we're done.
Yeah, now we need to get to Casey's favorite sci-fi, which is Doctor Who, and then we're done with all of our ideas.
But, little inside baseball, we do have an idea that's kind of inspired by Doctor Who-ish stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, it's weird because it has nothing to do with time travel. So it's like we have some time travel stuff coming up later, but I hate inside baseball and podcasts. But no, yeah, it's weird because like there's different elements of Doctor Who that I like, and one of them is just being the characters. So it's like, okay, and again,
we're not gonna have a Doctor type character running around. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's like how do you parody something without parodying it? Like how do you go like? Wouldn't it just be funny if we made this in Wonders? We do that a lot actually, and it's like how do you fit this into Wonders? You know, how does this thing exist in that universe? It's like, okay, well, this is how you do it. And then the other thing too is, you know, you can't just write. Yeah, like, well, you can't just write a bunch of stuff down and say there's an episode. Like with Wonders in particular, it's very involved. Like it's very well thought out. Like there's always like something. There's always some kind of a theme that it's about. You know, so it's like, how do you then make these characters or things that you like that you want to show in Wonders? How do you make them fit into the universe, and also how do you make a decent story about them that involves the other characters somehow? You know, so it gets very complicated.
And a direct parody of Aliens didn't really.
Yes. How do we rip something off innocently?
But yeah, I mean, like
our alien has a top hat, so it's
and a little monocle spot.
Yep. I like that design.
I love it because it's one of those things that like it's like a very childish joke, right? Like take a big scary monster and give it a British accent. He just like goes ahead with like tea and he's like, ho, 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 ho. Yeah. Like I mean, like I can't think of many things that have done that, but it's always like that's always like a stupid kind of parody.
It's like the big scary monster is an intellectual gentleman.
Yeah, that's had to have been done 100 times, but we still managed to keep it in here. I like it because he's an intellectual, but he's not nice at all. Like he's still like very angry all the time. He's just like a proper gentleman villain. Like he's gonna do all of his heinous things.
He's not even a gentleman. He's just a jerk.
Yeah, he's just a greedy
he speaks
little.
like a gentleman though. He's very well. He seems like he's very well educated.
He's just a greedy little elitist. It says, I'm better than you because you're humans and I paid for first-class tickets that I won in a radio contest.
I always got the idea that he just bought them. He's like the king.
I know, I was making
he's the king of that whole planet or something. They just killed him.
Gorblax the Mighty is there.
Part of this episode is the cameo by Jerry and Petunia.
Yes. Because we finally passed the Bechdel test.
Did we pass the Bechdel test?
Yes, because Nova and Petunia talk to each other and not about a man. They talk about the room.
It would have been funny if Nova talks to Petunia and Petunia just goes like, "Man, can't I just like what she would say? It's like, you know, like you can't live with them, can't live without them," and it's like that's what my cousin Bechdel says. Or whatever.
Yeah, no, I always wanted to have like two female characters talking about their boy crush. Bechdel or Delbeck or something like that.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, the Bechdel test in writing, which applies mostly to film, I think in film
and TV, yeah.
But like, yeah. So it's when you have to have two female characters that have a conversation and not about a guy. And the reason this exists is because we talked a little bit about actually this is kind of relevant because this is about Nova this episode, but. Yeah. It's like in a lot of, especially movies a while back, right? Like the TV and video games are kind of moving along with this now as well. But like it was really misogynistic, and like there's very few movies out there where you don't have women that exist for the sole purpose to just serve a man's needs. And I don't mean like sexual. I mean like
just exist for the plot point of the male
like
character.
A lot of times you'll have like your male protagonist, which happens constantly. There's very few movies that have a female protagonist, and even when they're there, they're usually sexualized so that you get a male audience going to watch it. But like Yeah, it's like they usually exist just to be the girlfriend or something. They're just there to be like a foil. They don't really do much. And even if they do something,
Yeah, do.
it's only because the filmmakers felt they had to give her something to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like it's the idea that you treat all characters equally in a sense, no matter what their gender is. And the Bechdel test specifically is a way to test that in movies. It doesn't have to pass the Bechdel test to mean that it treats its female characters well, but it's a pretty good measuring stick in a lot of cases. Yeah.
Actually, one of the best
test
things
is just more of a kind of a curiosity thing. It's not a rule or anything, but
it's a case study not a case study. It's a study in a sense, and it is very fascinating, and it's something that we wanted to get away from, and we do have other female characters planned that are not just there are their own actual independent characters.
Every time we write a character now, we specifically have a set of rules about how we write characters that we now follow that we didn't used to. So.
Yes, and the first rule is: can this be voiced by Edwin?
Got like a flow chart. Yes, no.
Are you sure? Yes.
If it's a girl, is it voiced by Miranda? All of our female characters are voiced by Miranda so far.
No,
except
we had
except
for the kids in Gravity who were voiced by.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I guess we.
Voiced by Faye Mata.
And what's voiced by me?
Aurora.
Wait,
is it
the other one's
Aurora?
So it's men taking women's jobs.
Because women voice little boys.
Slightly off topic, I love how in Bob's Burgers, the daughter and the mother are both played by me. Yeah, so that's episode 5, Xenophobia.
Yeah. That's a good name too.
It doesn't really fit the new version of it that well, but I think it's fine.
It works okay. Yeah, I mean, originally it was called Xenophobia because none of the Marines wanted to work together.
And they were also afraid of the xenomorph. It was a great, clever pun. Ha 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 ha.
If you take it literally, it means fear of weird things or bizarre things, I think.
What we're saying is fear of the xenomorph.
Yeah, but like xeno doesn't mean alien. It means like it means like something like
different.
Yeah, like fear of something different. So yeah,
relating to a foreigner or foreigners or other different in origin.
Alien.
So just so it's so funny.
Is this the fear of foreign people?
Those Spaniards. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, this whole episode was to start getting out of our racist attitude against Spaniards for some reason. There's no Spaniards in it.
Space Spaniards. It's.
So I hope you guys enjoyed it.
We did.
We enjoyed making it for the past 10 years.
I don't think that we'll run into this kind of problem again in the future.
Yeah, let me also say that there were since once we got started on it, I think it took maybe about a year to a year and 3-4 months or so, because part of it was because I was trying to update my social life and fix things in real life and some stuff going on. So I prioritized that over animating, and it's unfortunate, and it's not really fair to the rest of Toonwerks and to everybody out there who's been waiting and still may remember us. But it happens, and we've all hit that kind of. All of us creating this stuff have hit that kind of slow down before. So
yeah, I mean, we made 5 episodes if you count a star date pretty fast. And it just kind of caught up with a lot of us.
Yeah. Especially since we're pushing the boundaries. Episode 4 was a big push that took like 8 months to do because we were just me going for such a perfectionist kind of a thing with like the space or no gravity stuff, and then this one just again with it being a large in scope. Even if it doesn't seem that way, there was still a fair amount of thought that went into it.
Really, really big sets.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we've learned a lot from this one, especially in the writing department. I feel we've learned a lot how to structure things better, and just how to structure the general flow of things. Where it's like we sat and it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get storyboards. It'll be great, and like, well, we did get storyboards for some of it, not for all of it, and it's like, I'm not blaming Crispo, I'm just saying that you know, like we didn't really know
Sometimes
how
we
to
don't
manage
need
it. Yeah, it's like we didn't know how to manage it very
Yeah.
well. So we put a lot of weight on early storyboards, and they were very detailed. And then you know, like we ran out of time essentially.
Yeah.
And it's like we didn't know. I feel like we didn't know how to manage all of our little like the I don't know what you call them, the little bits and pieces that you put together in the end to make it like the pre-production
Micromanage.
stuff. Yeah, we didn't know how to manage the pre-production was the problem. We
Yeah.
went through so many variations of scripts. We had to redraw a lot of things.
And on top of that, we were
just,
doing some tougher set pieces too, like the part with the people movers, the what's it, the flat escalators? What are those called?
You mean the
conveyor belts, essentially. The people mover conveyor belts.
Transmorphic sidewalks? No, I'm just joking.
Yes. Like that's in concept it seems fine, but there's a lot of, because I animate stuff like films with changing shots, we had to figure out how to make like an angled background do it, and how the characters had to be walking on it, and the other one had to be sliding, and all that had to be planned out. And I just sort of, Chris did storyboards for that, and we had the general idea, and then we going to animate it was still logistics of it. It's still very difficult.
At the end of the day, it's something that we would have been better to sit down ahead of time and then plan out. Like sit down and say, okay, what's going to take a while? What is this scene going to need? What is that scene going to need? What's going to be hard about that? How can we do that? And really plan all that ahead of time, which we've never really done. I mean, it seems crazy, but we've just kind of done everything on the fly.
I blame the invasion of the Spaniards.
So no one expects the Spanish Inquisition. So it's like that's one of those things that we're definitely planning on changing up, because we can't keep making episodes like this if we don't, and that's just how it is.
Don't tell them that.
Well, it's the truth, I mean, like
I know you don't have to tell them that. God.
It's been a big learning experience, so I am confident in the future.
And I'm rather proud of this episode. I'm really, really happy with how it's come out. I think it flows very well. Art's very good. Voice acting's great. And
Joseph, what do you think?
I think Petunia should get her own series.
It's the Petunia Show, starring Petunia.
She does a vlog.
And Jerry.
So, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If make a comment, give us your feedback, give us a little like, because likes are nice. And
put a little heart in it,
We'll probably have some shorts up in the next couple months, and
we got some other projects planned that we don't want to talk about yet, but hopefully you'll enjoy those as well.
Keep you posted on future Toonwerks stuff.
Yes. We'll be sure to subscribe to our physical mailer. We'll send you a postcard for $9.95, and you'll get all the issues of Toonwerks magazine, starting with the first swimsuit issue. See all of the Toonwerks members in their swimsuits.
Or just Mark.
I don't have a swimsuit. What?
See, this calendar was very poorly planned. All right, see you guys.
Much like our
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye for that, Casey. Bye.
Bye.